And joining us now, he is the head coach of the 2025 ASUN Conference Champions, the North Florida Osprays. First time into the NCAA Tournament, led by their leader, Jeff Conrad, joining us here on In the Circle on D1 Softball, powered by 643. How's that new title sound?
Sounds good. It's been kind of a whirlwind 24 hours. We left after the game last night and drove back. We got back to campus probably about 6:45 this morning. So made for a long night and tried to get a couple hours of sleep, but you know how it is this time of year. That's not really a thing. So knew obviously that we were in the tournament, just, trying to get an idea of where that maybe would be. And, found out tonight, obviously going to Columbia, South Carolina. And I know it's a place UNF has been. They haven't been since I've been here, but my very first college game as a college coach with UCF was at South Carolina back in
Oh, wow. That's
2015.
right. That's
So
right.
yeah, so I've been there. It's been a while, but if you would probably remember this better than I would, but I think we won that game. I want to say like 4-1.
Shelby
Yeah,
Turnier, the UCF Athletic Hall of Famer, with the performance there. Yeah.
yeah, back in 15. So not completely unfamiliar. Obviously a nice stadium and everything there, and we just kind of assumed. You've been doing this long enough. A mid-major Florida school is probably getting tucked into Gainesville or, Tallahassee. So I think we were kind of, somewhat expecting that. And, I know we had, you had mentioned maybe Clemson be an option. And, I think at some point somebody had said something about Arkansas or something like that. But, yeah, I think all things being told, we're pretty happy with how things turned out. And, just excited to be a part of it. They could have sent us to Oklahoma and, we still would have been excited. So, great opportunity, huge step for our program. And it felt good to finally get over the hump. We had been, somebody had said, I think this was what was it, like our third title game in the past 4 years or something like that. And, we hadn't won one. So certainly didn't want to get to a point where I got labeled as the guy who gets there but never wins it. So hopefully we got that taken care of. And we're just excited. It's obviously a huge step for our program and a big thing for our school too, just in general. We had our a selection show tonight, and the turnout was incredible. Tons of people there. His school president was there, and enjoying every minute of it, and plenty of media, local news stations, and everything else. So that was really cool. And I think over these past couple of years, the UNF campus has definitely caught that softball buzz. The sport's really grown in popularity here, so that's been really cool to see.
No doubt. I'm happy. I was going to ask you, what was it like having the watch party? You're in, so that's exciting. But this is historic for this school. It's the first for the softball program. You mentioned how close you've been in the past. Just what was it like? And then to see that name pop up right there in Columbia, South Carolina, when they announced, obviously, South Carolina's the 8. You have Elon there. Then your name pops up, and then Virginia after. What goes through your mind? What went through your player's mind?
It was interesting. There were several different camera feeds, I guess you would say, that were there, and it was being run to a computer, and it was really the sound was coming through a computer, so we really couldn't hear anything. But I could vaguely hear them say something about Osprays, and I think that kind of tipped everyone off that we were coming. And it was good. Obviously, we didn't know how long, we were going to be sitting there, obviously. And, the Florida region came off pretty quick. And then the Florida State, I think, was right after that. And we didn't pop in either one of those. And then, I think at that point we felt, pretty confident that we were going to be leaving the state. And, I think the other thing, too, is when we saw Mercer, I think it was popped up as the 4 in
Yeah.
Gainesville. I think we kind of thought once that happened that hopefully we would fall on that 3 line somewhere, going out of state. And but yeah, it was great, to see our name, pop up. I mean, the kids, it was kind of a lot like last night, just, the embrace and release of emotions from, having an entire year of being driven by trying to get something accomplished and then being able to accomplish it. I think, you see that all release at one point in time, and that was, really cool to see. And, I think it's roughly about a 4-hour drive from Jacksonville. So, and we're expecting a pretty big turnout there in Columbia, and we're excited to get there and get started.
I had a chance to talk to Jordan Clark, the FAU head coach, on Sunday night on the Reaction Show, and I want to ask you the same thing I asked her. And I think to me this is a incredible moment for the state of Florida in softball, which we've known it's been a strength. It's growth. You know this from coaching travel ball in the state in your career. You have a situation where your team gets to bus out of the state and earn a 3 seed. You got a 3 seed. You didn't get dropped to a 4 seed like maybe they would have 10 years ago. UCF, a program you know very well, 10 years ago, was a top 16 RPI team, didn't host, had to bust to Tallahassee. They didn't even ship them out of the state. Here we are 10 years later, and UCF, for the first time in program history, as a 2 seed, is getting out of the state because FAU is also a strength of a 2 seed. They get the 2 seed in Gainesville. We know what Florida State can do. South Florida wins the American. This state, Jeff, is unbelievable. And I just wanted you to talk about it because you've had a unique perspective of being a
Mhm.
travel ball coach in the state, being an assistant in the state, and now a head coach. Just take me through this because this is I mean, it's an incredible moment. The strength of the state of Florida was shown today with the respect, too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I often talk about being in the ASUN conference with a lot of the mid-major schools in this state being in our conference and having to schedule, non-conference midweek games. It's really hard to find wins here just because of how good and how deep the state is, outside of even just Florida and Florida State. I mean, as you mentioned, FAU obviously is really elevated their program and taken that next step. And USF and UCF have kind of been there, probably for a little bit longer period of time. But I think now you're starting to see, some the emergence of some of those teams from the ASUN, like ourselves, and obviously Florida Gulf Coast has been in that conversation in the years past. And even when you look at what Stetson did this year, in elevating their program. I mean, I don't know that. I mean, you obviously are much more of a historian than I am, but I don't know that you could ever say that the quality and depth of softball in the state of Florida has ever been better than it is now. I mean, there's a lot of really good softball teams that, because there's only 64 spots to get into the tournament, that seasons aren't continuing. I mean, Stetson, I mean, we, saw them 7 times this year. I mean, it's a very deserving team. I mean, they're a very competitive, scrappy team, and their programs really come on. And I think obviously ours is, really starting to emerge, having been, it was 3 ASUN title games in the past 4 years, and now finally getting over the hump. Florida Gulf Coast has been kind of there for a while in the ASUN conference. And I mean, even the depth is expanding, but along with that, the quality in the depth is continuing to expand. I mean, at UCF has obviously, been that program that was really been peaking for the past 10 years, and they seem like every year they continue to elevate and get better. And you're seeing a lot of that too. So, I know California, Arizona, Texas, a lot of those states, and rightfully so, get a lot of respect on the national, level for their depth and quality of softball and stuff. But I think the emergence that Florida has made has kind of put themselves very much in that same conversation.
Let's go back now. Let's talk about the Saturday night, a night that certainly Osprey fans will never forget. You're playing Eastern Kentucky. You're one win away after obviously going through the tournament. Whether Mother Nature involved pushes the game back. You're playing later, back and forth game. Weather gets involved. Just take me through that game because it was intense. And You and obviously your pitching coach Amber Pfizer made maybe a defining decision in your career. You took Allison Benning out of the game in a big moment when Eastern Kentucky's threatening. You bring in Barry, 1-run game, trying to go for the juggler. She gets out of that jam. She shuts the door. You win the championship. Just take me through that game because there was a lot of swings, emotions from both
Yeah.
sides, with weather also a factor.
Yeah, I think honestly, like the emotional swings and everything kind of started the night before as we're sitting there thinking, how do we want to map out our pitching plan, for that next day, knowing that weather is such a factor. I mean, there was so many different scenarios being thrown around, everything from, because the forecast was really bad for Saturday and it wasn't supposed to be much better on Sunday. And I think knowing that the tournament had to be completed by like 1 or 2 Eastern on Sunday, and you're looking at, there isn't much of a window here, and you're trying to factor all that in. You start hearing, well, that maybe we're just going to drop the losers bracket because we might not be able to play at all. And then you feel pretty good because you're the team that's sitting in the winners bracket still. To does this become a winner take all championship game, where you don't have time for that if necessary game. And, there's so much uncertainty where you don't know what the weather is going to dictate the plan is going to be. And yet you're trying to decide who are you going to throw and how are we going to set this up moving forward. I mean, it was probably from, I don't know, about 2 o'clock, the night before until about an hour before that game started. We probably went back and forth and our thought process changed probably 4 or 5 different times on how we were going to attack it. We probably spent the better portion of that morning, of the mindset of, going with Barry to start that game, knowing that they had just saw Allison for 7 innings the previous day before. And you start thinking about, well, I mean, the last thing you want to do is give a team any sense of momentum, to go to that if necessary game. And if you got a kid like Benning, how do you not throw her, even if she just threw 7 innings the day before? I mean, there's a lot of back and forth with all of that. And really, I went down and watched, Benny's warm up, and I mean, everything looked really crisp. Her spin was really good. Her velocity was up, and she looked like she had complete command of everything. I mean, obviously the conditions were really, really poor. I mean, it was, we're even trying to evaluate who's going to do a better job of handling a wet ball and things like that. And, obviously, Allison being from Minnesota, she's probably been a little more exposed to some pitching in inclement weather than probably Kyla was. But I mean, we went back and forth. I mean, even from the time we were taking batting practice, I think we were kind of the mindset, hey, we're probably going to go Kyla in this game. And then, I decided to have both of them get loose, and, just looking at Benny's stuff and just thinking, the last thing we want to do is give these guys any signs of hope, but we got to go for this thing right now. Just kind of decided to go that direction, and was hoping that she was going to be able to, get a good outing out of it and get deep into the game, and knowing that we could go to Kyla if we needed to. We, really have been kind of increasing her role, and she's really effective coming in behind Benny, just a little bit of a different type of pitcher, doesn't have as much speed, throws a lot of really spinny stuff, and can really, work multiple planes with her rise ball. Feeling really confident about with how big that park is, 225 all the way around, that she could generate a lot of fly balls. So we were really comfortable with going with both of them, and then, we're going through weather delays and, things like that. And then you start thinking, okay, is she good to come out after this delay? And, and then we just get into a really tight moment where, it seemed like Allison, she was tiring a little bit. And, it was, even though it was a tight situation, we felt really good about Kyla's stuff and her ability to come in and throw throw strikes, really attack hitters, get some soft spinny contact. So yeah, it probably would have been an easy thing to second guess, like how do you pull Benning in that situation? But we got a total confidence in Kyla, and just Amber kind of looked at me and said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Let's make the change." So we went with it, and I think Kyla did a good job. I mean, she, um, really, I mean, she really had, I mean, she battled injuries early, throughout the year and stuff, and it really started to get healthier as the year went on, and we were able to get her. She gave us a great outing that Sunday, final game of the regular season down at Florida Gulf Coast, went 7 and helped us win that game. So we felt really good about her tandeming up with Benny and in this conference tournament run. And um, it was more of an instinct thing. We're just looking at it. I just kind of felt like now's the time. And we had been in that situation a couple times throughout the season, and Kyle had come in and done a good job in those scenarios. So, if nothing else, we felt like, if we can get another look, maybe for an inning or so, and then we can bring Benny back in to close if that's what we need to do. And once we saw how, Kyla was, working her way through the lineup and handling their hitters, we felt pretty good about her being able to close out the game.
Take me through that last out and what went to your mind there, because that was jubilation there by everybody.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, I don't feel like I honestly remember much about it. I think it was, if I remember correctly, I think they had the tying run on base.
Yep.
I think Rutan was up. I mean, she's a kid who's had a phenomenal year. I mean, has tremendous numbers. I think driven in something like 60 runs, on the year. And, fortunately, we were able to get her to, pop up. We fell a little bit behind, I think, in the count, if memory serves. And, Kyle was able to run a ball in on our hands a little bit, tie her up, and, get a soft foul pop. And, that was one of those situations where if we're not playing at Chocolaca Park, that ball's probably in this, 5 or 6 rows deep in the seats, but it's such a big field and spacious field that a lot of those balls that are normally foul balls and out of play are playable there. And, fortunately, Vaca was able to get underneath it, squeeze it, secure that last out. And it seemed like everything just kind of became a blur from that point. I mean, I saw, the videos afterwards, the different stuff. And at one point, I know on one of the videos, I ran past the pile and I couldn't figure out what I was doing. But and then I later remembered on the bus ride home, the ball that Vaca caught was sitting at first base. So I went over there to grab it to make sure we had that to bring home, with us. But yeah, I mean, yeah, all our games there all week were 1-run games, so I mean, they were hard fought games and tight games and pressure packed. And it just kind of felt like a huge release of emotion. I mean, it was great to see, a group of kids that really, from the time we left there the year before with getting walked off the way we did, use that as motivation the right way to just kind of fuel everything they did. And, just to see them, rally around that and, fight behind that and finish the job it was very rewarding as a coach. And, even tonight, people are asking me a lot of questions about it and how it feels. And, I'm not even sure how to answer that question at this point because I feel like I haven't had much time to think about it. But yeah, it was great. It was something we'll always remember.
Yeah, I think everybody will remember that. It's put it into context. You mentioned it. You've been close last year. You're in the championship game, losing a walk off to Florida Gulf. That was dramatic.
Mm.
You and Marcy, when Marcy was the head coach, have been to made an incredible run. What as a low seed to
Yeah,
a
we were the
championship?
8.
The 8,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Hosted, played Liberty.
yeah,
You've been so close.
yeah.
Was there a moment you ever lost? You doubted? Like, I mean, because knocking the door. I mean, to break through. I'm just wondering how many different people you were thinking about that's been part of this journey. I would imagine this is not just for this current team, but this is for a lot of the players that helped pave the way, isn't it?
Oh yeah, there's no question. I mean, and honestly, that was, in the game, we had, opened things up a little bit and had a 3-run lead. I think it was 5-2, late in the game. And I think at that point was the first time that a lot of thoughts started to run through my head. And it was, all the kids that had been a part of this program, the coaches that had started to get, UNF softball up off the ground and things like that. I started thinking a lot about, them and, the baseball coach here, Tim Parrington, who had passed away, who was, very instrumental in my first year of becoming a head coach and helping me. And, um, and him and I had, talked a lot about the opportunity that each of us had to guide programs that had never been to the NCAA tournament before. And, the how awesome of an opportunity it is to be the person that could kindly get those programs to that point. And unfortunately, we lost him and he passed away. And I saw him a couple of weeks, before he passed, and and he just kind of mentioned, like keep doing what you're doing, and find a way to finish the job. And thought a lot about him and just various things. I mean, even just the struggles of being 38 years old, I think it was, and choosing to change my career and getting into this coaching, profession, and just hoping that somebody would give me a chance. Never thinking it was going to lead to this point or even being a head coach or anything like that. I mean, a lot of those things start to run through your mind, and um, it was definitely it was stressful watching those last three outs. You're sitting here thinking we got three outs, and you know how it is. I mean, you got a one-run lead. It's never easy. It's always, it's never that bang, 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 1, 2, 3 inning. There's always, things that pop up, and obviously there's a good team on the other side of the field, and they're fighting to keep their season alive, and just a lot of emotions going back and forth. And I mean, it definitely was a lot of those types of things were things that I was thinking about. And was happy about this group being the vehicle to get this thing through the finish line, but also at the same time recognizing that this program that we're building here currently is being built on a foundation that's been laid by a lot of people that have come before us, that have put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this program, that regardless of where they were um, last night or even tonight, hopefully we're able to look, on and watch that, and, have a big old smile on their face and feel like all those sacrifices and everything they did were all, worthwhile.
It is unbelievable. They're going to be talking about it for years. But you got softball ahead here now. So now you got to
Mm,
prepare for regionals. Uh, you're going to play Virginia. Really good Virginia team coming up to start with. But just take me through this week now. This is what you've worked for. You're going to get ready. You're going to, I don't know if you're probably going to bus, obviously, over
yeah.
there. Get ready and play in a regional. So what does your team have to do? What's going to be some of the focus this week? Obviously, you're going to scout the teams and all that. We get that. But I'm just talking about internally. What are some focus that you think has to be worked on to have a successful regional?
Yeah, well, one of the things that we really focused on all year was finishing this job, and I think at the end of last night, we were finally able to close out that book of business, and, say, hey, that mission's been accomplished. And, right away we started thinking, okay, what's the new task? What's the new challenge? And, now the new job, now the new focus, now that what's directly in front of us is trying to figure out a way to be competitive and grow the UNF brand more on the national scale via the regionals and things like that. And I think really getting the kids to embrace that mindset, they seem to really respond well to having those immediate challenges that are presented right in front of them to focus on. And that's kind of what we'll do this week. I mean, we're pretty tired, we're pretty beat up, so we'll take some time to kind of regroup tomorrow, and then we'll get back out on the field on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then probably Wednesday night we'll head, to Columbia, get a workout in Thursday up there, and, get ready to play on Friday. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, we'll dive into, Virginia, South Carolina, Elon, start looking at all their stuff and get a plan put together on all them. And, really, I do think scouting is one of the things we do really well in preparing our kids. And, we'll have a lot of work to do here in the next couple of days to get ready for that in a short period of time. But, it's all worth it. I mean, the alternative, we know what the alternative is, and that's not to be playing this time of year. We're, very grateful to be here and have the opportunity to continue playing. I don't think this is a team that's just going to be happy to be here. I think they're, intent on, showing up, showing we belong, and, representing the ASUN conference and the high level of softball that's played in that league on the national stage.
My last question. You're going to obviously be on a stage you mentioned, and one player I'm sure there's going to get a lot of talk is Allison Benning. And I'll never forget watching the end, the celebration, and her in tears hugging, I think was her catcher,
Yeah,
which was just unbelievable moment, an incredible teammate. What does it mean for you? Obviously, you're happy that all your program's going to get a lot of attention this week,
hmm,
but she's going to get a lot of attention that probably she's been overdue to get
yeah,
with what
yeah,
she's done for this program. Just talk about that because that's going to be part of this. Just she'll get a lot of attention from the ESPN crews. I'm sure they'll try to talk to her and everything like that. That
yeah.
people now that maybe haven't seen her are going to get to see her in this stage.
Yeah, I mean, she's the real deal. I mean, um, it's ironic. Her and I, took a picture after the game on the field, and she reminded me that I was, her first phone call when she went into the portal, and um, she remembered that, the first conversation we had, it was about coming here and shocking the world. And I don't think a lot of people had North Florida and the NCAA tournament, on their bingo card for a lot of years, and when Benny decided to come here, I, was still trying to hire a staff. I didn't have any assistant coaches, and she put her faith in me and what we talked about and what we were trying to build. And I told her, I said, let's come here and let's shock the world. And when we had the trophy last night, and we kind of shared an embrace, and it was kind of like, hey, like, this is what we talked about, like, we just shocked the world. And I don't think she's content with just being known as an ASUN champion. I think she's ready to go out and you know put her name out on the national stage, as she very well deserves. I mean, I think somebody had mentioned to me, like I said, I couldn't really hear anything about the ESPN broadcast, but they said something about, like, she has a chance to become, I think, only the second player ever to win over 20 games and hit 20 home runs.
Yeah,
I think she's got like 24 wins in the circle, and I think she's had 19 home runs. So, um, I think it's another awesome opportunity for her. I mean, she's obviously had a tremendous career here. I think Allison Benning has been tremendous for UNF, and I think UNF has been tremendous for Allison Benning, and I think she would tell you the same thing. And I'm just so happy, that a kid like that, who experienced the NCAA tournament, and kind of stepped away from the limelight, and um, you know, jumped down to the mid-major level to compete, and is having the success, is probably going to get the due that she deserves. And now with us being part of a regional, here this weekend.
it's awesome, man. It's exciting. Can't wait to see you all playing up there in South Carolina. Jeff Conrad, UNF head coach. Check that. That is Jeff Conrad, ASUN Coach of the Year, ASUN Champion Coach Jeff Conrad. There's a lot of titles now, aren't
Yeah,
you?
well, you
You know,
must know something I don't know, because I haven't been told anything about the ASUN Coach of the Year. So
if you're not Coach of the Year, then there needs to be a recount. I'm declaring you the Coach of the Year. I don't care what the coaches vote. All right, with the job you've done there this year with that group, it's been a tremendous team there, and I'm just excited for you. I was rooting for you. I'm not. You're right. I was one of those people. I'm like, what are you doing? We're taking
yeah.
the ball out of Betty, but you know what? It's you all know what you're doing, and I'm glad it worked out. And I'm super geeked for you. And man, just to say congratulations. It's pretty crazy. 10 years ago, we're going to a regional. We're bummed to go to Tallahassee. I remember we're watching a Ranger playoff game, talking about it, and now here we are, 10 years later. You must have good fortune with the years that end with a five.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me last night, and I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, I mean, 2015 regular season championship, conference tournament championship with UCF, and now 2025 regular season champions at UNF, and then conference tournament champions at UNF. So yeah, I mean, it's I guess a unique 10-year anniversary in that regards. But yeah, we're excited. Obviously, we appreciate you having us and the publicity. that you've given us and everything you do for our sport and our program. I mean, it's awesome, and we definitely feel the love, and we really appreciate it. And we're excited to get back out and play this week, and continue to make another first. I mean, our kids are focused on trying to get that first win, post regional postseason win in program history, and I mean, they just been shattering records all season long. So I mean, 45 wins in the regular season, and 22-2 in conference, and I think the first UNF team ever to win every conference series. And I think it was we had swept like most of them or something like that. I think they said 6 of the 8 or something like that. So yeah, just an incredible group of kids, and just really excited that we get to be together again for another week and coach these kids and take our chances on on another stage. And we're happy to not have to do it against a team that we've played a lot, Florida and Florida State. So yeah, it's a good time to be a part of our program, that's for sure.
All right, Coach. Good luck, and thanks for coming on here and talking to us. And once again, congratulations.
Of course, always time for you, Eric. And like I said, we appreciate the support and keep up the good work. I heard you were a perfect 100 on the bracket,
I
so
did.
congratulations on it.
I hit 64 for 64. I hit the right seed for you. I did not hit the right region, but that's okay. I did have you out of the state. I did tell you. I
Yeah,
was the first to tell you, hey, I
yeah,
think you're going to leave the state.
yeah,
Because for a while we're like, I got to be put into Florida. So I did have that. But yes, I did go 64 for 64.
yeah.
Was not prepared for UCF to leave the state. Well, let me ask. Well, and then I'll let you go. I mean, you see, as the bracket is playing out, and you see Florida State, you don't see UCF. What goes to your mind there? And then you see UCF in Texas,
Yeah, I was originally it was like, wow, UCF's going to leave the state of Florida for
right?
the first time. Yeah, I mean it was
And you and I had talked about it. I remember we sat on the bar, not a bar, it was a hotel 10 years ago in Tallahassee. We're watching the Rangers and the Capitals, I want to say, right?
it was, yeah.
And
Yeah,
we're like, why don't they just fly us somewhere?
right.
We're running, and
Yeah.
that's what I thought about when I saw UCF going. And I thought, and it's ironic in this moment, you're going out of state too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, baby steps. I mean, maybe the tournament is finally growing to the point where I think a lot of people would like to see it, where it's not what does the tournament look like based on how close you are to somebody. It's how does the tournament look by putting the best teams in the best places, regardless of what that distance looks
Yes,
like. So, I think the quality of the sport, the popularity of the sport has grown to the level where it warrants that type of evaluation of the tournament. So hopefully this is a step in the right direction, and happy for UCF, happy for the Florida schools that get to be a part of the tournament. And I'm sure they kind of feel the same way that we did. Like we're tired of seeing the same people every time and get an opportunity to go play some other places. So hopefully it'll be a good tournament, and we're looking forward to hopefully doing our part to make it a memorable quality tournament for everyone.
all right, Coach. Good luck this week.
Okay, appreciate it, Eric. Always good to be with you.